Hello guys, welcome back to VC Tech. In IPv4 networks, configuring inter-VLAN routing and DHCP is common. But what happens when we move to IPv6? Today, we are building a fully functional IPv6 network where multiple VLANs exist, devices can communicate across VLAN, and IPv6 addresses are assigned automatically using stateful DHCPv6 on a router. This is a real enterprise level configuration, not just theory. Remember, VLANs separate network, but IPv6 makes routing and address assignment even more powerful. Today, I will show you how to combine inter-VLAN routing with stateful DHCP on a router. So let's jump into the configuration. First, we are going to need to create VLAN on the switch. So our configuration today will be starting from the switch. We have one router, one switch, and 6 host devices that are going to be on different VLAN in this network. So let's head over to the switch and start our configuration. First, for this configuration, we are going to need to create VLANs. So how do we create VLAN? VLAN 10, and we want to name this VLAN IT, VLAN 20, VLAN 20, we want to name this VLAN HR, and VLAN 30. We want to name this VLAN sales. So we've created 3 VLANs, 10, 20, and also 30. Now let's assign ports to the VLAN. Let's assign this port or this 2 device to this VLAN. Let's also assign this 2 device to VLAN 20 and this 2 to VLAN 30. So it's going to be 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. So let's head over to the switch and start our configuration. So interface range, this is how we group 2 ports together when we want to assign them to VLAN. So interface range FA0/2 to 3. So switch port mode would be access. And we want the switch ports to access VLAN 10. Switch port access VLAN 10. So by doing this, we've assigned these 2 ports to VLAN 10. If we check by saying do show VLAN, it's going to show us that we have 3 new created VLAN, which is IT, HR, and sales. And as you can see, interface FA0/2 and 3 are in the IT VLAN. Let's also do that for the HR, which is VLAN 20 and VLAN 30 for sales. So let's head over and do that configuration. So interface range FA0/4 to 5. Switch port mode should be access to access. Switch port access VLAN 20. Let's do the last one. So interface range FA0/4 to, is that 4? No, that should be 6 to 7. 6 to 7. Switch port mode would be access, and switch port to access the VLAN 30. So we've done the same configuration for all the VLANs. We can also say do show VLAN. As you see, we have 2 interface 2, 3 in VLAN 10, 4, 5 in VLAN 20, and also interface FA0/6 and 7 in VLAN 30. Now we are done with creating VLAN and assigning ports to VLAN. We are going to need to trunk the interface that is going to be carrying multiple VLAN, which is this interface that is connected to the router, interface FA0/1. So interface FA0/1, switch ports mode to be trunk. So we are done with the configuration on the layer 2 device and downwards. Let's head over to the router. This is where we are going to be configuring DHCPv6 server that will be assigning IPv6 address to the host devices that are in different VLAN. So let's jump into that. First of all, let's say interface gig 0/0. Let's say no shots. Then let's start the configuration for DHCPv6 on the router. First, we want to create IPv6 address for this host device that will be in VLAN 10. Then we are going to do the same for VLAN 20 and also VLAN 30. Remember, we are creating DHCPv6 for each VLAN. So let's jump right into that and start. So before we start any configuration that involves IPv6, remember we always have to enable the IPv6 unicast routing. So IPv6 unicast routing. And now let's jump into the main configuration for today, IPv6 DHCP pool. Now we want to give this DHCP pool a name. So we want to call this IT. This will be the DHCP server for the IT, which is VLAN 10. Next, we want to say address prefix, where they'll be getting their IP address from. So we want to say 2010:10A $1/64. So let's also assign the DNS, which is 2000:DBB:20 and the DNS server is using the IP address of 899. And let's also assign the domain name, which is going to be tor.com for this one. So by doing this, we are done with creating a DHCP pool for VLAN 10. Let's also do the same for VLAN 20 as well as VLAN 30. So IPv6 DHCP pool, and the next on our list is HR. So let's configure the address prefix for HR. So address, and we say prefix, and this will be taking 2020:A::ABBC, and we want this HRO to start assigning IPv6 address to the host devices from 20/64. We also want to assign the DNS, though we're making use of the same DNS. So 2000:DBB:20:899. Let's also create the domain name. So domain name, this will be taking vic.com. And let's head over to the last configuration for VLAN 30. So IPv6 DHCP pool will be taking sales, address prefix. So this will be 2030:30A, so 30A :ABCC and we want this to be assigning IP address to the host devices from 30/64. We also want to be making use of the same DNS server, which is 2000:DBB:20:899, as well as we are going to assign the domain name. For this, the domain name will be victor.com. So we are done creating a DHCP pool for a DHCP server that will be assigning IP address to the host devices in each respective VLAN. So the next configuration is going to be to create an SVI interface for each VLAN. So we can do that on the router by saying interface gig 0/0.10. So this interface will be for VLAN 10. Now we want to assign the link local address and the global unicast address. So IPv6 add the link local should be FEAT:10 for this. And we want to specify VLAN 10, and we want to specify that this is a link local. Now let's also head over and configure the global unicast address. So this will be taking 2010:10A :ABBC, and this will be taking 1/64. So we've configured the link local address and also the global unicast address for VLAN 10. So let's enable the DHCP server so it could be able to assign IP address, because if we should head over to this device right here and try to get an IPv6 address, unfortunately we are not even able to get the Slack IPv6 address. So we cannot get an IP address right now because there is something imperative that we've not configured in the SVI that we created for it to be able to assign IPv6 address to each host devices in their respective VLAN. So let's head over to that interface, which is interface gig0/0.10. We want to say IPv6 enable, and next we want to say IPv6 DHCP server, and this is where we specify the full name that we created. For VLAN 10, we gave it the name of IT. So for this, we are going to say IPv6 DHCP server, and we want to specify the name we gave to the DHCP pool that we created for VLAN 10. So that interface is given the name of IT. And the next on our configuration is going to be to apply that this is a stateful DHCP configuration. We have to specify the IPv6 ND and manage configuration flag. By doing this, we've enabled on the router that the host devices should get their IP address from this DHCP or from this interface that we created, this SVI interface that we created for VLAN 10. And this is going to be their link local address, as well as this will be their global unicast address. The global unicast address prefix, and we also specify that the server that we created, which is the IPv6 DHCP server that we created, we gave it the name, and this is what enables that DHCPv6 that we created to be able to assign IP address to the host devices. So after we are done configuring IPv6, there is something very vital that if we should not do this, then our configuration or even assigning IP address to the interface might not even work. The next, we have to encapsulate the interface, which is encapsulation.1q. We want to specify the VLAN number that we created, which is VLAN 10. So after doing this, let's head over to the host devices and try to get our IPv6 address one more time. As you can see, guys, we are able to get the IPv6 address with also the DNS server that we configured. Let's head over to the same router and try to do the same, because if we should go and check on this device over here, as you can see, we are still not able to get IPv6 address, meaning our DHCP server that we configured is not working yet. We only have one active DHCP server. Let's head over to the router and try to do the same configuration for the other VLAN on the network. So interface VLAN 20, and let's assign the IPv6 link local address, IPv6 FE80 : so we want to give this 20, and we also specify that this is a link local configuration. Also specify that was a link local address, and the global unicast address, which is IPv6 address of 2020:20A :ABBC :1/64. Now this is where it gets even interesting, as this is where we enable the DHCP server that we created and also encapsulate the ports to our VLAN. So let's head over and do that real quick. First of all, let's say IPv6 enable, then we say IPv6 DHCP server. We also want to specify the name. So for VLAN 20, the server is HR. Then we also want to specify the manage configuration flag. So we say IPv6 ND and the manage configuration flag. And lastly, for this configuration, we are trying to encapsulate the interface 20 to VLAN 20. So we say encapsulation.1q, and we want to specify the VLAN 20 that we created. So by doing this, if we should head over to the host devices and try to get an IPv6 address, it's going to be successful because we've already created everything. As you can see, IPv6 request was successful. Let's do the same for the last device. Then we try to troubleshoot what we just did. So interface gig0/0.30. So we want to configure the IPv6 link local address. So we say FE80:30. Also specify this is a link local, and the IP global unicast address, which is the IPv6 address. So 2030:30A:/ABCC:1/64. Now let's also enable the DHCP server that we created for IPv6. IPv6 DHCP server, we want to specify the name of the DHCP that we created, so sales, and we also want to manage the configuration. So IPv6 ND manage configuration flag. Guys, we are done doing all this. We are done configuring everything, but we've not done one thing, which is the encapsulation. So let's see what happens if we don't encapsulate the ports to that interface. Let's see if it's going to work in giving us an IPv6 address. As you can see, guys, it's unfortunate we cannot get an IPv6 address until we encapsulate that port to the VLAN. So let's head over to the router and try to finish up the configuration. We say encapsulation.1q, and we specify the VLAN number, which is VLAN 30. So by doing this, let's head over to that same device and see if we are able to get an IPv6 address. So yes, we are successful to get an IPv6 address. So as you can see, we are able to get IPv6 address from the router because we configured DHCP server, a stateful DHCPv6 server on the router, to assign IP address to all the host devices in their respective VLAN and also use their address prefix. Now let's also go and troubleshoot what we just did. So we say do show IPv6 DHCP pool. First, we have the DHCPv6 pool for IT, and our address allocation prefix is 2010-10A:/ABB:1, and this is valid. We also have the DNS server, which comes with the IPv6 address as well as the domain name, and it is also telling us that we have 2 active clients on the network. As you can see, we have 2 active clients here that has an IPv6 address. While for DHCPv6 pool of HR, it has the address allocation as we have over here, and it has also the DNS server as well as the domain name. For this domain name, the domain name is vic.com, while for this one it's store.com. We also have DHCPv6 pool for sales with its own address prefix and DNS server with a domain name, and they all have 2 active clients on the network. We can also check our DHCP binding. DHCP binding. So by doing this, you can see that we have our client ID, which is our link local ID, as well as we have our link local ID for VLAN 20, as we have here link local ID for VLAN 20, and we also have our link local address for VLAN 30 network. Guys, this is how we combine inter-VLAN routing with a DHCP server on a router. This is how we combine those two for a smooth and a powerful network. If this video helped you understand how to configure inter-VLAN routing and router on a stick, a DHCP server v6 on a stick, why not smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.